Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Sulman Rahim here, Messenger of the Covenant, breaker of the seven seals. This is wartime, brothers and sisters. The topic is Abomination of Desolation. This is a redux. I'm trying again. I had to switch computers because they destroyed the last two I've done, so I'm going to make another attempt because this is a very, very important subject, right? So I'm going to try to give you some events from the unsealed Bible that's leading up to it. This is going to be brief because I'm not going into all the detail like in the other videos. The other videos are out there. The quality is not what I would like them to be, but I think this will be much better. So I had to reset up my whole system, get another laptop, so we'll see what happens. So let's move on. So again, give you some background here, right? With suffering energy deprivation, it began 50,000 years ago. The universe expands and contracts. As it expands, all the energy is focused. The big cave calls it the Big Bang theory. It's a theory in his mind, but it's actual fact, but not as he sees it. All the energy in the universe used to be here, the atmosphere of the earth. Now it's out there. And when it was all here, we had tremendous amounts of energy, tremendous amount of energy. We was totally different beings. But as the energy, as we expand the universe, made the stars, gave it form. Stars, the planets, the moons, the galaxies, the constellations. As that happened, right, was less energy here until at the full extension, right, we start suffering energy deprivation, not enough energy to maintain ourselves. That's energy deprivation, which will last for 50,000 years, but it will have its most acute manifestation in the last 6,000 years of that process. Right? So that's what's going on. So during that last 6,000 years, right, we'll be under intense energy deprivation. See, just before it comes out, so the darkest part of the night is just before dawn. See? So as a result, we're at that point in time now, because the universe is now contracting. See, so energy is coming back, as the Quran says, it's momentous in the heavens and earth, but it comes you but of a sudden. See, so it comes in waves of approximately every 50 years. But when we went into that contraction, we went into that energy deprivation phase 50,000 years ago, a deal was made. See, there was 3 tribes. The tribes got together, decided how they was going to deal with it. Everyone disagreed. Everyone had a different idea. I'm not going to everyone's different particular idea, but Dr. Shabazz, there was 3 tribes. The Hindi tribe, that's primarily what we refer to as the Indians, right? The Hindus, I'm not talking about the so-called American Indians. Well, they came out of that tribe, right? Then you had the Levites. They was the ones that we see selling in Africa. Those are Africans. Mostly at that time, Somalians and Ethiopians. They were, primarily them. Then you had the Shabazz. They was in Arabia, tribe of Shabazz. That was us, right? So they agreed. They had a talk how I was going to deal with this. Dr. Shabazz looked at the. He said, "Well, I'm gonna take the long. I'm gonna take the long game, right? I'm play the long game, because I'm going to look at what's going to be the result when we come out of this 50,000 years from now. See, I'm going to look at the long game." Other one says, trying to figure, well, how are we going to avoid? I mean, this is going to be terrible. What can we do to avoid, right, the impact of energy deprivation? So some was thinking, I mean, they knew Dr. Yaqub was going to come along, but some of them had those ideas along those lines. We're taking, because Dr. Yaqub, what Dr. Shabazz, what he did was he took and emphasized, his idea was to make us as strong as possible. That means we would suffer energy deprivation. We're greater than anyone else because the stronger we made it, The stronger we make ourselves, that means more energy we will require. That means we'll suffer energy deprivation greater than everyone else. But some of the tribes say, hey, I don't want, that's crazy, I ain't do that. We're trying to avoid it. So they had ideas along Dr. Yaqub's, right? Taking and graft themselves the other direction. See? Instead of emphasize the stronger genes, right? Emphasize the weaker ones. See? Not to the extent that Dr. Yaqub did it, right? Not to, in other words, to go and produce a totally different germ altogether, brown germ. They were just going to de-emphasize the black germ. See? Because that's pretty much what we see in that Master Prophet Muhammad. He's got the original gene, right? But he's half and half. See? So his father is original, but his mother is devil. So he doesn't suffer energy deprivation like we will because, right? Because he doesn't require as much energy. He has in a simplistic way of looking at it, he has a original mind, but a devil body, which doesn't require that much energy. So they was thinking along those lines. That's why you see the Arabs, right? See, they pretty much say, well, so white, the original. See, so I'm not going to go into all the details about that, but that was Dr. Shubaz's idea. Disagreed. The disagreement was a very strong disagreement, so much so that they pushed us out of Arabia into what is known as Africa now, because Arabia is actually North Africa. They pushed us out into with my land, so we covered that land with sand to protect it, because we played the long game. So that began a process of sifting. See, what Europeans call culling. In other words, just because he started the process of taking the best and pushing away. He didn't kill them like Dr. Yaqub did, but just moving the weaker ones, moving to the side. He kept emphasizing the best gene. Who had the best genes at that time? The God and the scientists. They had the nappy hair, they had the darker skin, right? Only a few people, but he emphasized that. That's why it says, I will make man our likeness, our image. Not talking about Caucasians. That's not, you got to understand it. Genesis. It's talking about us. So now that's why Elijah Muhammad says, when you look at original people, that's us, you're looking at God because now we look just like the God did and the scientists did at the time. He emphasized that, right? See, when Dr. Yaqub took it all up, he didn't just de-emphasize the dominant. He took and split the seed. It was two, brown seed, black seed, and brown seed. He just took the brown seed. He took a whole different path. See? So I'm not going into details about that because, well, I say little things. I'm trying to keep it simple, brothers and sisters, but it's so much to say. We have we have two sides, like the Quran says, two sides of everything. We have the analytical side of our brain and the spatial side of our brain. That represents two seeds. So we had two seeds. One seed was spatial, one seed was analytical, but the spatial always kept the analytical in check. So we had two seeds within us. So Dr. Yaqub took that spatial, that analytical seed and took that to the, see. The Arabs didn't do that. They took the spatial seed, right, and took and grafted that, minimized that until they got it as weak as they could get it without destroying it. See? So that's why they look white, though they're still original. I'm going to leave that there. At any rate, so this is where it's a process of, because remember, he was looking at the long game. He was looking at how we want to be at the end, because he didn't want to weaken that original gene. He didn't want to weaken it. The original seed didn't want to weaken. He wanted to strengthen it. So when we come out more powerful than ever before, greater creators, because now he took and emphasized that spatial side, and that's the creative side. So we'd be greater creators than we were before, ever. Because now, instead of our brain being 50 analytical, 50 spatial, it's almost 90% spatial now. More creative than ever before. But it required this sifting technique. And what's a sifter? You put something in the sifter and you shake it this way, that way, this way, that way, until all the stuff you don't want falls through. And in the end, what you want is what's left. Same thing as putting silver and gold into a furnace, right? You put it in there and you stand there until it burns off all the weak gold and the weak silver, all the impurities, until you burn on. Then you have pure gold and pure silver. The same idea. So that process started there. So he knew at the end there would be very few of us left. It says many will go out and few will come in. Billions of people were lost in that process over the 50,000 years. And the last 6,000 years, hundreds of millions were lost. They didn't make it. They couldn't make it. They couldn't survive. All the tension was going, all the pressures. When the gate came and got us, millions was lost in that process. And then millions committed suicide. And then the men they killed, they couldn't survive and couldn't make it. They didn't have enough wisdom to understand, mental, to survive to the whole process. So now we're at the end of the process, and it's only 17 million of us left. It's 34 million, but 17 million are demons. That's slave master seed. Only 17 million of us left. See? And it says only 144,000 of us going to even get out here. That's only 1%. That's what we're going to talk about, Abomination of Desolation. See? There's only 144,000 return out of the entire process. And they're going to be pure gold. And then there's going to be the silver, pure silver. So let's move into it, brothers and sisters. I give you some background to understand where we're at. I give you some background to understand what we're talking about here. Now, we're talking about from the unsealed Bible. Now, this is for the people that's been studying angel, of course. The people that haven't been studying angel, they have no idea what we're talking about. But this is prominent for you. So you have wisdom, you have understanding, right? You'd be more inspired, right? See? Because it's one right now, that's myself, be Suleiman against the whole world. 8 billion angels of darkness and one of light. But we got the angel, which is the most powerful weapon in the universe, because everything is pressure. And thought is the most powerful pressure in the universe. And it's my thought against their thoughts. See? That's what they did. That's what the battle is. See? The truth from the angel against all their lies. And it's very dark. See? It said he would fight this battle alone. So, I'm just giving some background here. I'm going into much more detail than I expected to. It's just so much to talk about. I'm trying to keep this simple. So let me move on, brothers, because I'm going to really have to shorten this up. Okay. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to take an, I'm going to just shave this down quite a bit, because I'll be talking, I have so much to talk about. So I'm going to have to break this up into different parts. But I want to give you a general idea, because the Abomination of Desolation is on the horizon. I mean, it's days away. So we're going to go into that. And we're going to explain it from the angel. So like I said, for the brothers and sisters that study in the angel, they'll understand what I'm talking about. Those of you don't. And it's for you to, once you get it, that strengthens you, that strengthens your power, because the war is mental. Thought is power. See? Thought is pressure. But if you don't open your mouth and let it out, right, then it doesn't do anything. They're letting it out constantly. And that's what's grabbing our people. See? So we have to counter it. And we have a more powerful weapon than they do. See? Because they can't stand up against this. But if you say nothing, there's, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about this. We're talking about the Abomination of Desolation. Okay, now, here we go. Therefore, when you see the Abomination of Desolation, what was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in a holy place, let the reader understand, right? So it says, this Abomination of Desolation is going to be standing in a holy place. Well, someplace, the holy place is recognized, all the religions recognize over in so-called Jerusalem. That's the holy place. Unless Mecca is recognized, but that's recognized only by the Muslim. But this is universal recognition, and that would be, right? So that means this Abomination of Desolation is there. You see, and standing there in the holy place. So who's standing in that holy place over there? Because that's the Abomination of Desolation. Who's standing there? Who's controlling it right now? Right? So you see over your endo key right here. What it's talking about at this point, when you see it, that means Let's say when you see Jerusalem encompassed by armies, see, they twist all around. This is what it means. So in other words, this is a situation where you see Britain is thrown into the sea, chapter 18. America's, right, cast down to the earth, right? In other words, America is at war with Europe and Russia, and also China and India, because if Britain is in war with them, so is America. They Gog and Magog, right? So in this case, America and Britain has been kicked out of the Middle East. That's why they're in that position. And now the Shia control the Middle East, and they've surrounded false Israel. See, that's the abomination. That's the one that's standing there. And they're on the siege. So they abandoned them, they're on the siege. That's the event you want to see. That's the event that's about to take place, because the war's about to break out in the Middle East. They're expecting false Israel to win, because they're telling everybody that false Israel is true seed of Abraham. Jesus said they're not. He said they're liars. They're the seed of, they're followers of the devil, but they're claiming that they're us. So therefore, if they are true seed of Abraham, when this war breaks out, they cannot lose, because that's the whole idea. Once they return, they cannot be uprooted. And that's what the Christians saying. Oh, when that happens, that means when they down on their knees and about to be destroyed, that's when Jesus will come back and he's going to destroy all his enemies, he's going to kill all the Muslims, everything. That's what they're expecting. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that they're going to go down, and when they go down, right, then it's going to be obviously clear to everybody universally that they wasn't the true seed of Abraham, which means that we must be. And when that happens, all hell breaks loose. It's going to take a microsecond for them to make that calculation, because that's not supposed to happen. They're not supposed to be destroyed, and they're about to be destroyed. So that's what it's talking about. And when you see that situation, it's also talking about when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies. I'm not showing that graphic right now, but that's what they're talking about, the abomination of desolation right there. Okay. Then it says, whoever's in the housetop, see, remember we're talking about angel key? So, who's in the housetop? See, the housetop, that represents the NOI. They're in the housetop. And the Christian blacks, right, they're in the field on earth. That's what that's talking about. It says, whoever in the housetops, says, do not go and get your things. In other words, right, you ain't got time. When you see this, this is what you have to. If you're in the housetop, you don't go back in, because something's about to happen. You don't go back and get your coat, right? Because something's about to happen instantly. You have to react instantly. But you have to see it. You have to recognize it. And that's what we're trying to do, brothers and sisters, to get you to recognize it. Because you may not believe it, right? You may accept it, but you still be aware of it. And when you see it, this is your last opportunity before your destruction. Because it's going to be it says a time of trouble. It says never been, right? It says ever before, right? No disaster ever hit the earth worse than what's about to happen. And that means your demise if you don't recognize this. Okay, so now we see we're talking. They're focusing on the Nation of Islam and the Christian blacks in America. That's what they focus on here. Those two, for some reason. There we go next. Then it says, when you see it, flee to the mountains. See, now the sealed Bible is what mountains where you fleeing from. But we're telling you, this unsealed Bible tells you why you're fleeing. Because it's you're being driven out. You're on the threat of death. Because it says you can't. It's so terrible that you can't go back in the house. You can't go back and get your baby. You can't do anything. You have to flee immediately. If you ain't got everybody ready, you got to go. You can't think. You can't look back. You can't go back and make a phone call. You can't go back and get your cell phone. You have to leave immediately. Immediately. You have to flee immediately. I don't mean to the physical mountains. That's a whole nother story I'm not going to right now unless I'm trying to keep this short. But the mountains represents the four winds also. So you have to flee, because that's the aspect about unity. So you have to flee immediately. That's where you have to be able to recognize it. See? And you have to be prepared to flee immediately. See? So if you believe, then you'll be prepared. If you don't believe, then you still got an opportunity to flee immediately without anything. Because you have to flee. Because why you have to flee? Because you're under threat of death. You're under threat of death. It's not by the army or the police force, because you would have time to think about it. That means your next door neighbor, the person you may be sleeping in the bed with. And I'm going to say this again, I need to bring this together. We don't believe we are the gods. We don't make spirits and spooks. We do personification. So in other words, for every situation we give it a personification. That's why you show these different animals and everything. They're a personification of some force. I'm not going into detail, but when we start the sifting process, the last part of it I mentioned would be in the furnace of affliction. The flames, we get a personification of them. That's the devils. They are the personification of the fire. That's why they're the fire. They are the flames. The flames are not invisible. There's no invisible devils, no invisible demons. They are the flames. So if you're dealing with them, you're dealing with fire. If you sleep with them, you sleep with fire. You've been told. See? We've been dealing with them for 400 years and we know they're the fire. But some of you still don't know. You're playing with fire. Then you can't understand why you're being burned, why you can't know these diseases, why you got tension, and all these different things. Because you're in the furnace and they're the flames. So I'm just going to talk about that, about personification. If you go back and see the previous videos, right, then I explain it more in detail. Okay. So it says flee. See? Because they're going to cut your throat. Because they did recognize, remember, at that point, that's going to be universal, that you're the true seed of Abraham. And you're the reason why all this happened, because all this is based on the Abrahamic covenant. All this is going on is because of the Abrahamic covenant. It's because of you. You're the one that bring all this about, right? And you have Suleiman, he's at that point making it clear to everyone. So they're going to know in a fraction, a millisecond, why this is happening. Because America's under plagues right now. From 2020 until we actually driven us out here, Exodus says they'll be under plagues. The first plague will be to kill the firstborn or the elderly. That would be 1619 to 2019, 40 years, and then 2020 will be a plague that will kill the firstborn. That would be the beginning of the plagues. All these things is severe weather, economic, distribution, all that kind of stuff. Those are part of the plagues. There's 8 plagues, right? And it's going to increase. The demons, that's the locusts. Now you see blacks, those are demon blacks. So all the crime waves and everything, it's going to increase. Because the whole purpose of it is to force them to drive us out of here, to let us go. But they're going to drive us out. But the last one is going to force them to drive us out, that last plague. So that's what that's talking about right there. So you see, the white, those are the 4 horses, but those are the demons. See, because you had 3 demons and you had 1 saint. So you got the white, the greenish, the fiery red, and the green. Those are the Christians. Or the demons. Some of them are Christians. But top one, he's, of course, of a Muslim. But anyway, those are the demons. And then you got the black one. That's the saint. Okay? So he said flee. You got to run. You got to run. Like Elijah Muhammad said, be moved to the center of the country. You can't think about it. Because they're going to cut your throat. And if you don't recognize this, you're dead. If you don't recognize this and flee, first you got to recognize it. If you can't recognize it, you're not going to flee. That means you're dead. And if you recognize it, don't flee, you're still dead. So then it says, and woe to those who are pregnant and those who are nursing babes in those days. Right? So this would, see here, under these are talking about, that they single out America and Britain here. They're the one, because they're pregnant, because they got, Britain got the Nation of Islam under them, and America's got the Christian demons under them. That's the ones that are pregnant. They're the ones that says woe to them, because they're at war now. Yeah, it's war now. See? So America's at war with, because the EU, they think is their allies going to turn against them, and they're going to be at war with Russia. They're already talking about war with Russia any day now. And that's increasing. It's getting worse every day. And they're going to be at war with China and North Korea. See, that's when it's a war. Because that's just beginning. See, remember, all these places going to increase. They're going to lose that war too. First they got lost the war in Iran, in the Middle East. Now they're going to lose this war too. And then end up being invaded. Anyway, that's what it's talking about. Those that are pregnant. Right? Let's move to the next one. Then it says, and this is very, very, be careful with this one, brothers and sisters. It says, moreover, pray that when you flee, it will not be in the winter on the Sabbath. Now, the sealed Bible, right, from that, the sealed Bible got good information, but the information was for Adam. It's not for us. The angel, the unsealed Bible, that's all. And I'm breaking this down from, I've been telling you, from the sealed Bible, because that's the Bible you basically, most of you are familiar with. See? But I'm talking right now specifically from the sealed, unsealed Bible. See, and it's primarily for people who's already familiar with the angel key. So it says, so because from the Sealed Bible version, the Sabbath is the 7th month, and the first month is March, so 7 will be September. Then winter will start. That's why I'm talking about this. I'm pushing this. I'm trying to get this right because I've put 3 already, and they messed up all my videos. I had to get a new computer and everything. So this one, I'm trying to get you to understand because this is about to happen. We don't tell you about things after they happen. We tell you about them before. So the 21st is the day that, the 21st, hold on here. Let me get my dates right here. The reason why I'm really pushing this the last couple of days, because today is the 21st, today is the first day of winter. See? That's why I want to get all this clear. Because from a Sealed Bible point of view, then that means pray that it doesn't happen in September and pray that it happens in winter. That means whatever's going to happen should happen. You have to flee, which should happen between September and the 21st of December. You got that window. See? There's some truth to that. But see, again, it would be delayed because that's the controversy Jonah had with Master Abrahamic because he delayed. He said he wouldn't do it because there were 120,000 that didn't know the right hand from the left. That's another story. I'm not going into detail here. But the power of the angel key is, like I keep telling everybody, you can map all of it into the key. So if they're saying a date, then it's not really a date because you have to be able to map that date into the key. That's why it's so powerful. The angel key is so powerful, and that means it's restructuring your mind. See, it's putting your mind back because your mind's all jumbled up, and it's restructuring your mind. The power. See, so what it's talking about here is that the Sabbath is 1 month, but the winter is 3 months, and that's what I'm showing it here, right? Because the winter represents the 3 demons. And the Sabbath represents the NMI. Because the Sabbath, they're Sabbath keepers. At least they're supposed to be under Elijah because they followed the law. Elijah laid down, the Moses laid down. The other ones didn't. Okay? That's what it's talking about. So what it's telling you is that pray that you're not one of them. Because if you're one of them, that you're going to have to flee. Them the ones had to flee. That's what it says. Pray that you're not one of them. Because your life is going to depend on whether you flee or not. And most of you are not going to flee because you don't know about this and you're going to die. That's why I'm talking about pray, right? Because it says, well, there will be great tribulation such as not. See, don't say what's going to be cold. It says pray that when you flee, it will not be in the winter or on the Sabbath. Then pray that you're not one of those have to flee. That's what it's trying to tell you. See? Because there'll be great tribulation such as not since the beginning of the world until now. Because who doesn't have to flee? See up top there what his army is? That's the original people. That's us. That's 144,000. They don't have to flee. Because they believed in the angel and they got out the way. They didn't have to flee. That's what it's telling you. See? Pray that you're not one of them. Pray that you one of the elect. That's what it's telling you. Okay. I'm not going to elaborate on that anymore. I said I went much longer than I expected to. And now we're going to talk about Ezekiel here, because that's going to bring this home. Right? Now they're fled. See, they all come together, because that kicks off Armageddon, all coming together. Because the whole world is resisting our coming together. So once we come together, that resistance is so great, it ignites Armageddon. So we're all together. The demons all. Because the demons, the chaff and the wheat will come together, but then the chaff will be separated out. The wheat, the chaff be thrown into the fire. So everybody's come together. Blacks, all the blacks come together. Why all the blacks come together? Because they're under the threat of death, because the devils are trying to kill them. So then they wake up, because the demons realize the devil master don't like them either. Because as far as they niggas too, far as they're concerned, because even when in chain slavery, they treat their own children just like they treated the other. They call them niggas too. They treat them a little better than they treated the field ones, but they still was niggas, and they still was, and still oppressed them. So now they're under fire because they want to get rid of all black folks. They're not taking any chance. Well, maybe you might be Abraham seed, you might not be, you might be my children. No, so all come together, and then we end up fighting with each other. And we had to kick the demons out. That's the story about in Exodus
where Aaron, Farrakhan, right? He took, and his followers were separated from Elijah's followers and Joshua's followers, and Joshua's followers killed all Aaron's followers. They went to war and they killed all of them. See, so that's where Farrakhan leads all his followers to destruction. That's what's going on here. See? So let's read this. Therefore prophesy and say, thus the Lord, such says the Lord, hold, I will open your graves and raise you up from your graves, O my people. Talking about his people, Israel, the true Israel. I will bring you into the land of Israel. That means we're going to go back home, not stay here for 6 days like Lion Farrakhan, who's a demon's telling us, because he wants to keep us here, right? So you want more background information, look at the other videos, because I go into very much detail about what that's all about, right? And you shall know that I am the Lord when I open your graves and raise you up from your graves, O my people, and I will put my spirit within you. See, so we know that Suleiman, which represents the sun here, he's also one of the spirits. So he's putting the spirit in there because that's where they're. He's getting spirit in there because they have the spirit. The 144,000 will have the spirit, right? And I will place you in your land. That means we're going back to our land because the Abrahamic covenant specifically said this is not our land. It said we'll be a slave in a land that's not ours. Farrakhan trying to say, no, that land is ours. We work for it. No, that's bullshit. These are demons. He's trying to keep us here. So I reference the other to find out what that's all about. See, I'll place you in your land. So we're leaving here. See, because the sifting, because they're the end result of the sifting process. The only one survived it, right? So, because we're all in the furnace, but in the furnace, when you put things in the furnace, you have to be certified, and that's Suleiman. He was certified at the point when the gold is pure. That's where you have to be in his book of life. That means he looks, okay, the gold is pure, he pulls them out the furnace, right? But then the silver takes much more heat, right? The silver takes more heat. That's the Nation of Islam. They take more heat because we the gold and silver. It says when we gold and silver taken out, then in America we plundered. So he had to put them back in. That's the tribulation. They have to go through the tribulation, see? But then after the gold is purified and the silver is purified, then you turn the furnace off. That means you get rid of all the devils and demons, all of them. They're all destroyed. Don't need them anymore. Because their purpose for us, for Dr. Shabazz, is the final purification process we just went through. And we're at the end of it now. See? Okay. So that's what's going on right here. Okay? So let's look at the next page here. And this brings it home right here, right? It says, and prophesies to the breath. It should be spirit, but I'm going to leave that translation here. Prophesies son of man, Suleiman, because Suleiman, read it. Suleiman's supposed to be, son of man is supposed to be the son of David, right? That's what it said. David, son of man is the son of David. But who is David's son's name? Solomon. That's where Suleiman comes from. It's a play on words. I mean, they can't even get that little bit, and that's a simple one, right? And say breath. Thus say Lord, from the four winds. See, that's when the four winds blow. I talked about the four winds blow, right? They had to, because the four winds are the four mountains, right? See, and that time when the four winds blow, right, that's when they come alive, right? And he prophesies, it's a command, and breath came into them. See, so in other words, they're at the top. That's the ones at the top, because breath came to them, because they would Suleiman says he would be wherever they would be with the Lamb of God, and everywhere he went. That means they kept pace with him. See, there was fire. They said he would make his ministers flames of fire. See, because they're gonna light America up just before America will be totally lit up with the truth. Totally lit up. It's dark, totally dark now. Be totally lit up with truth just before we leave out of here. See? And they lived and stood. There you go. Those who understand the angel understand this. They stood upon their feet. That shows they're talking about the one on top. That's the extreme great army. It's 144,000. That's the great army that comes together. Because the feet, they see the feet are. Those understand, you can't understand it. So the feet is not part of them. See? They stood upon their feet. That means they're the great army. That's going to be raised up when the four winds blow, right? By Suleiman. See? Ready for war. They're the ones who have to take back the promised land. They're the ones going to be delivered by Farad when it says, you know, those in the Lamb's Book of Life, he delivered them. See? And those left behind, some everlasting life and some everlasting shame and abhorrment. Well, it's two groups there, but they left behind. That's the demons and the devils. They left behind for destruction, and the saints, they left behind for everlasting life. But they have to go through tribulation. They have to go through the final purification process. That's what it's talking about. So I think that's it, brothers and sisters. So I think I'm saying if you want to go look at the other ones, and you get more detail, because this is the third one I put out. Like I said, I changed my computer and everything else to do this because the other ones kept messing up. And so I had to get me a new computer, and I'm gonna see how this works out. I think that's it. Okay, this brothers and sisters, I'm gonna leave it there. Hope you understand. It's a sifting process. At the end of the sifting, Farrakhan was part of the sifting process. See how many fall out because of him, fall away because of him. Remember, he calls it the falling away. They say if you're falling away first, the man of sin would be revealed. That was falling away. That occurred after Elijah Muhammad departed because that clown was supposed to stand up and he didn't. They said, well, he's the good shepherd. See, he's the good shepherd. That when a wolf comes, he stands. No, he didn't. Because the fact is, when the wolf came, when Elijah Muhammad departed, he not only not just abandon the believers, but he ran and hid. They had to dig him out of some hole in Arizona someplace. It's pathetic. But it says in there, it says the people that believe in him, it says they chose to believe in a lie. Read Son of Perdition. They chose to believe in a lie. That's why they was confused and destroyed, because they chose to believe in a lie. Even though the truth was available, light switches truth all over the place. It's obvious he's Aaron, and you see what happened to Aaron, but they tried to twist it around. First came God, he would teach Elijah, right? Then Elijah, one spokesman, was the God was against. Read it. The God was against it. He was against Moses. You don't need Farrakhan. But Moses insisted. Elijah insisted. So he gave him, and then in Moses' absence, Farrakhan had the people worship golden calves, Sunnism, Scientology, everything else. And he led people to destruction. And then went to Joshua, which is another name for Jesus. He led the people to the tribe, he led the people home, and then he took back to promised land. I'm going to leave it there, brothers and sisters. Hope you understand. Assalamu alaikum.